There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello, BookTube. I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to a Friday night, Saturday morning type of Friday reads. I was very busy on Friday. I'll talk about that in a minute. But I have time now to record a quick and dirty Friday reads, but I won't have time to start editing it until tomorrow. I don't know at what time it will go up on Saturday, but you will know by the time you see this video. I have been very busy today. First thing this morning, I interviewed Alex Scotchless, the CEO of the Carol Shields Prize for Fiction, which is, this is their first year, and their long list came out on International Women's Day, and I scored an interview with her talking about the prize. It really is. It dwarves all the other literary prizes that I've ever heard of in the West in terms of the size of the prize. And there's all kinds of other fascinating things about it. It's for women writers and non-binary writers living in and publishing in North America in the year 2022 for the 2023 long list. And it's quite an interesting long list. So all of that is in that video, which you'll see a little clip of in the weekly highlights coming up soon. And then it took me quite a while to edit it. It's now posted, and yeah, I don't have time to edit a Friday Reads video tonight, but I have time to film one. I am absolutely delighted by the fact that just by virtue of me naming and thanking my new patrons as they come in for my Patreon account, that it seems to be putting bees in your bonnets out there. Because this week I have 3 new patrons to tell you about. I am absolutely delighted to welcome them to my Patreon universe. First is Robin. Robin has been a guest twice on my Bite-Sized Book Chats, and I think she first discovered me when I was a guest on Reading Envy, the wonderful podcast that Jenny hosted for many years. She's a lovely person, and she's so lovely that she's patronizing me at the top tier, the Bibliophile Besties, which I read. I cannot describe what a difference this financial support means to me. And the moral support is equally, really just fabulous. So welcome and thank you so much, Robin. And then I also would like to welcome Louise from Australia, who is a new book buddy. Really happy to have her here, and I'm trying to help her get her hot little hands on a copy of the wonderful Alberta novella Happy Sands by Barb Howard. So we're going back and forth about that. And my friend and yours, but more my friend than yours, Dan of the Weird Book Club is a new Story Seeker patron, and he hails from Michigan. I think most of you knew that. And what a pleasant surprise to welcome him to my Patreon world. Thank you so much. I don't think I have much personal news. I am still struggling with a horrible cough. You probably see when I edit it out of my videos, and I can't get the medication that I had in Japan, and it's not getting better, and it's driving me crazy. I don't have any other symptoms, and that's all I'm going to say about it, but it saps a lot of my energy. So when I wasn't editing or making videos today, I was coughing up a lung, and it's not fun. But otherwise, life is beautiful. Let's accentuate the positive and put the coffin in the coffin, shall we? Oh no, Sean, I haven't even had a drink of alcohol and I'm sounding like a lunatic. I don't think I have any other news. No, but this is a good place to talk about 2 new readathons that I'm excited about. The first one is called the TransGirlReadathon, and that is co-hosted by 2 fabulous trans booktubers, Kevvie of C'est Kevvie and Willow of BooksandBao. I'll put links to their announcement videos in the show notes. It's for the month of April, and they have a great bingo card and various categories and so on, and guidelines and suggestions, and I am planning to be part of it, so you should too. And the other one, and I'm gonna try to find some books to fit both readathons, otherwise I'm gonna be in trouble, is the PeopleApril Readathon, and this is co-hosted by Roz of Scallydowning About the Books, who has come back to BookTube with a vengeance. She's co-hosting her very own readathon, well, she's co-hosting it, so their very own readathon, co-hosting it with the wonderful Elizabeth of a wonderful channel, Bokens and Books. This is about nonfiction reading about people. So biographies, autobiographies, letters, diaries, what else? You name it, I guess. I can't think of anything else at the moment. And that sounds fun. So I'm going to participate, at least in a small way. And if you hadn't heard of it, those announcement videos will be linked in the show notes as well. So there's my personal news. I'm stoked about a couple upcoming April readathons because, I didn't have anything else that I was planning to read in April. Oh, I better go look at my stew. It's starting to smell good. I've got stew simmering on the stove, and I don't hear it boiling over, but I should give it a stir, shouldn't I? 1 second. There, I had to move the tripod to get up. Everything's so crowded in here, so it's probably not the same position, but sorry. It was simmering nicely, and I've decided to turn it off because I'm parboiling it, and I'm gonna finish cooking it much later tonight after I have a drinking party on Zoom with Dan to celebrate our new intimacy. So no, I don't think I have any other personal news. I'm gonna have a delicious beef stew later. Here is the week in review. Yes, I've been a little busy on BookTube and on Patreon, so have a look at what's been going on in those two parts of my universe. Editing Sean here on Saturday morning. There was one thing I forgot to mention, so you're going to see excerpts of book hauls on my Patreon from the past week because I'm moving all of my book hauls over onto Patreon and doing them a little differently, only 2 or 3 books per video, and I have one library book haul in the pipeline that I'll be posting on here on BookTube, but from now on, all my book hauls will be over on Patreon. And now your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to sell me on it. Your post was wonderful. You said it was, I think you were already predicting in February of this year that it might be your top read of the year. So tell us all about it.
Yeah, so Big Swiss is about this woman who is, she's, oh gosh, what do you call them? She transcribes, this is about this woman who her job is to transcribe these therapy sessions with this therapist, and how she kind of develops this parasocial relationship with one of the clients of the therapist, who she's given the name Big Swiss, and what happens when they potentially begin to engage in the real world.
The Bookshop That Floated Away by Sarah Henshaw. Sarah Henshaw bought a houseboat. I don't think it's called a houseboat, but Sarah Henshaw bought a boat, and she navigated around the United Kingdom full of books, and she would just pull up to a town near you and sell books for a while. And this is her memoir of the experience, and she knows a lot about books and is very eloquent and funny about books, writers, and literature, and she had absolutely no business sense. So float and keeping her boat afloat becomes the metaphor about keeping her finances in order. It was hilarious.
And Sean, the other thing I just wanted to mention is that one of the quotes that has resonated with us here at the prize and with our founders is that quote that she said, "I'm interested in writing away the invisibility of women's lives." And so that one, I just wanted to bring that quote forward because it really is, again, representative of how she wrote, and what she thought, and why she's a great representative for the prize.
I love that quote so much. I'm so glad you included it here. So the real life story is that the novelist Douglas Bruton has written this as a response through fiction to a work of art by the late artist Alan Smith. And that work of art is called The New World. And it itself is a response to the 18th century artist Giandomenico Tiepolo's, one of his famous paintings, Il Mondo Nuovo. So we've got several layers of emphasis happening here. Is it her debut novel? It's certainly an earlier novel to Pachinko. This is Free Food for Millionaires. I have never really had a bad experience reading autofiction. It is about the author Sandra Hoffman's relationship with her grandmother. And her grandmother was a devout Swabian, am I pronouncing that right? Swabian Catholic, who refused to reveal who fathered her child in 1946. Oh my God, like he just grabs me by the throat. Okay, I want to check this one out. All right, so now for I was going to say the pathetic part of my Friday week. It's not pathetic. It's just in keeping with this new relaxed attitude. I just am completely giving up on worrying about having finished anything. I'm dabbling, I'm reading a lot. I am reading a lot in terms of how many hours a week I read, but also in the sheer number of books that I'm reading. And I know I'm not going to tell you. That's only for my Patreons. I'm kidding. I don't disclose that number anymore because It's just not necessary to tell you everything. Gotta keep them guessing. So I haven't finished a damn thing. Not even close. There's one book I'll probably finish tomorrow because it's for a buddy read, and I'll get to talking about that in a minute. No bails. This is the first week in a few that I haven't bailed on anything. Haven't read far enough into any of the books to bail on. I did bail on a book that then I was talked out of bailing, so I'm not going to tell you about that one either until I bail on it a second time or finish it. So I'm just going to tell you about the books I've started. My first impressions. I'm not ranking them, but this probably would be the one that has impressed me the most. Eavan Boland's essays, A Journey with Two Maps, Becoming a Woman Poet, and I am only partway through the title essay, which is the autobiographical essay, and it's just knocking my socks off. It's beautifully written, but she writes about, I would love to just make a video and read you 3 pages, but probably I'd get into trouble. So instead, you should rush out, get it from your library, buy a copy, and read the first essay if nothing else. I'm assuming the rest of it's wonderful too. She talks at length about her mother, who was kind of a frustrated artist. Her mother was poor, but somehow she got a chance in the early 20th century, or maybe even the early 20th century, to go study art in France. And then her life back in Ireland after that did not make space for her to realize her dreams. And the misogyny, the patriarchy of female artists and their male mentors. And she talks a lot in detail about Berthe Morisot, who I'd never heard of, but what a fabulous painter she was. And her mentor was none other than Edouard Manet. And she was entering one of her paintings in, I'm going to put the painting up on the screen as I'm talking. She was going to enter it into some kind of competition, and he stopped by her house and completely changed the painting without really even asking her, just added stuff and rubbed stuff out, and it became his painting. I mean, it was still hers, but he had just, with such misogynistic presumptiveness, just grabbed the brush and did far more than touching it up. And then that anecdote and how something similar happened to her mother with one of her paintings. Just chilling, wonderful. Holy smokes, I am just smitten with this book already. And obviously the essay's making connections between Eavan Boland's life as an artist, a poet, and the artist's life of her mother that was squelched, that was prevented from flaming into being. Most of the rest of the essays are her, Eavan Boland, as a poet, writing about other poets, and I hope that will be as interesting to me, but boy, that's beautifully written. I'm only one chapter, 16 pages into this Welsh novel, The Small Mind by Menna Gallie, and this is for a pseudo-buddy read with Kieran of Katie Books, and he just messaged me today, said, I just finished it, I'm ready to have our Zoom chat whenever you are. It's like, oh dear, I better pick up the pace with this. But I absolutely love the writing. This is published in 1962. Menna Gallie's life was quite short. I guess she died in 1990 at age 70, but I don't know why we don't know more about her. Based on this first chapter, what a beautiful writer, and she writes about men so well. And it's about the tough life in a small Welsh town, coal mining town, and all the men have black lung or drink too much, and harrowing scenes of one old guy who's doing a treatment on the kitchen table with his towels over the hot water to kind of try to ease up his lungs. But it opens with one of the most, for me, homoerotic descriptions of a young Studley miner. I quoted this phrase in a Instagram voicemail to Kieran. This is the end of the first paragraph. Still kneeling, he bent his head to put on the coat, and his light short-circuited, pinpointed, onto his knees and slender, muscled, strident young thighs, and onto the colors of the coal dust all around him. Slender, muscled, strident young thighs? Oh, sounds like a short book. It's really quite rich so far, and like I say, one chapter in, so don't quote me on it, but it certainly has grabbed my attention. I'm not so sure about this one, which is surprising because I have gotten along with everything else I've read by McCarthy. But this is Birds of America. This is an ugly library copy, so I'll put up the cover gif. And I don't think I really like it. I'm 20 pages in, and it's about a teenage boy. I think he's maybe 15, but he might be 19. I think the arc of the story in the first 20 pages might be between those two ages. But he's really annoying the crap out of me. He's so selfish. Well, name a 15 to 19-year-old, or in my case, even now that I'm into my mid-20s, that isn't a selfish bastard, but I don't like being in his head. And he's with his mother, who's divorced or separated from her second husband, and moved from, I think, the Pacific coast out to the Atlantic coast, and is just kind of under her young son's thumb, and he's controlling her and complaining about her and criticizing her all the time, and I'm not really liking it. The writing's nice, but... So this is this age-old debate. I know that there's a certain kind of reader out there that rolls their eyes whenever they hear another reader say that they don't enjoy a book because they don't like the main character. And I used to think, oh, I need to have that attitude too. I need to roll my eyes when I hear people say that. But no, I don't. If I don't like being in somebody's head, that is a potential bail in the making. Can't stand this kid. I'm waiting for his mom to slap some sense into him. Very positive start to this gay male Canadian novel, The Geography of Pluto by Christopher DiRaddo. A review copy from the publisher, a finished copy from the publisher, because Sean, the book maniac, doesn't do arcs. It's really grabbed hold of me. The protagonist is, I think he might be in his 20s or maybe around 30. He's a high school geography teacher in Montreal. He grew up with a single mother that is kind of a clingy mother, but he has a pretty good relationship with her. The scenes of his adolescence growing up with her were quite fascinating in Kyoet's discovery of his sexuality. And now that he's an adult, he hasn't got much of a sex life or emotionally satisfying gay life. And that, I think, is going to be the quest of the novel. He's got a lesbian best friend. It's a very simple story, really well told in very simple writing that has just got me completely engaged. So very optimistic about this one. Well, maybe about 40 pages into this one. This is a Spanish novel, Oldladyvoice, by Elisa Victoria, translated from the Spanish by Charlotte Whittle. And yeah, I'm enjoying it. The voice of the young girl, I think she's just she's like primary school age. The first person voice is quite, first 10 pages or so I wasn't sure, but soon after that I got really into it. This novel so far is reminding me of some European fiction that I've read in the past, and I'll think about it before I start to make connections. Really unique characters, interesting character work. She is an impudent 7-year-old. I'm terrible with ages, but something like that. And her mother is ill, and her stepfather there's nothing creepy about him. He's taking care of her, but he's signed a contract with her kind of as a game to say, I'll look after you until you come of age, and then you have to look after me until I die. How's that? And they've been joking about that. And the grandmother takes care of her on the weekends, and she is kind of bitching about her daughter, our protagonist's mother, a lot. Her granddaughter wants to go into the bathroom when her grandma sits on the toilet, and she loves listening to all the sounds. Doesn't comment on the smells, but all the sounds in there. So there's just various things about it that are pretty intriguing. I'm going to have a pseudo buddy read Zoom chat with Bernie, who he scolded me. He said, Sean, don't call me Bernard. Nobody's called me Bernard since, I think he said a nun in elementary school, and he was traumatized. I don't know why I said Bernard. It's Bernie Lombardo, one of the most wonderful bookstagrammers out there, and we're having a chat about this in late March. And the last one that I've started, and I didn't start it until the other day, but I've read 2 chapters, is also just starting out really well, and that's the Irish novel Trespasses by Louise Kennedy. I'm doing this as an audio text combo. The audio is really good, and so I'm reading it more slowly, which is part of the reason. I've had comments over the years about audio text combos by people who say, but it slows down my reading if I'm following along with an audiobook. And I don't say this in a confrontational way, but my reaction is, yeah, that's the whole point. Slow down. I want to slow down and savor each word, and I also believe speeding up an audiobook to be the greatest sin. It's just the grossest thing I've ever heard of, speeding up the audio. But anyway, I digress. I'm listening to Trespasses by Louise Kennedy at the regular speed and enjoying it very much, and it's quite sweet already. So the story it's set in Northern Ireland, either in or near Belfast. I haven't figured that out yet. And it's just at the very beginning of a love story between A young Catholic woman and a somewhat older, I'm not sure how much older yet, fairly older, like maybe 15 years older Protestant man that comes into the bar that this young woman's brother runs, and she's got an alcoholic mother at home, and she teaches at an elementary school, and she's quite a character. And what little I've met of the older Protestant man, he seems interesting. The characters, the writing is lovely. This is a buddy read with Sonia of An Enthusiastic Reader. So I've started all those books. That was too many books to start in 1 week, and that's why I was so interested in dabbling in those, and so I only ever dabbled in all the other books, many of which I was hoping to finish. I think my goal was to finish 4 books or something this week so I could start 2. Didn't get even close. But I had a great reading week. That's the point, right? That's the whole point. No pressure. I will be finishing it tomorrow, or certainly this weekend, The 7 Moons of Mali Almeida. This is a buddy read with Joe Smith, so we're going to immediately start another book. So that's the only book I'll be starting in the coming week. It is for the Irish Readathon, and it is Lucy Caldwell's historical novel, These Days, which just came out last year, I believe. Those end papers, eh? Isn't that fabulous? Joe and I, a year or 2 ago, buddy read her short story collection, Multitudes, and it contained my top short story of the year before last, whenever that was. And she is an amazing short story writer. So let's see how she does as a novelist. Set in April 1941 in Belfast. That's all I will say about it. I'll talk about it much more next week. Thanks for watching.